Hi, crafty friends. You guys, the question I get the most is when I do the cling wrap hack. Sorry, I had to say that slow because it's a little bit of a tongue twister. So today I'm going to answer some questions and then we're going to do 5 different projects with 5 different surface types so you can kind of see how it works. So one of the questions I get when I do it on fabric is this washable? It's not really washable, it's more decorative. It's a way to take an image from napkins and put it onto any surface without using Mod Podge. So what happens is when we heat it up with the iron, or I use like a little heat press, it melts that and then that's what adheres to the surface that you're using. So I use a little mini heat press. I used to use my old iron all the time. I would do on a regular iron, I would do what was the setting? Oh, cotton setting with no steam. So there's not really an amount of time to go over and iron over whatever surface you're working with. You can kind of tell by the way it looks. So you'll just kind of be mindful of that. So the last project, friends, is a trucker hat that I got when I was at Hobby Lobby, and I'm so excited. Fingers crossed this one works because I so want it to work. I really want it to work. So friends, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned and you'll see the 5 different surfaces. Thanks so much. So first up is the wood project. So I've got this little star that I got at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to pair it with a napkin from Dollar General. So you guys, I have found that this Saran Cling Plus cling wrap or whatever it is works the best. So we're going to use that. We're going to use some parchment paper. And remember, when we take all the plies off of the napkins, the napkin becomes transparent. So if it's got a white background like this one does, whatever the surface color is, you're going to see that through. So I was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and paint this up white because I didn't want that yellow coming through. Now, if you have a darker napkin, it doesn't matter as much, but just remember that once you get all of the plies off, that whatever the surface that you have is going to show through that. So once we get that done, we will set that aside. And then, like I said, we're going to put some white paint over the top of it. Actually, I did the whole thing. I did the edges and then I did the back because I'm going to use 2 napkins. We're going to do the floral parts on the front and the back. And then on the side of the napkins, kind of around the edge and around where the flowers were, there's kind of like this cross hatching that's kind of like a turquoise. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so cute around the edge of this because this star is it's thicker. It's more of like a shelf sitter. And so I was like, oh, this will be perfect. So I'm going to trim off some of the cling wrap. We don't need all of that. And so we've got that down first. We make sure there's no wrinkles or anything in it. I'm going to grab a little piece of parchment paper here. And then on top of the cling wrap, we are going to, do you ever try to rip those and it just doesn't work? Yeah. Holy moly. But anyway, so we've got our surface, then we've got our cling wrap, then we are going to lay down our napkin over the top and just kind of position it the way that we want. Then I'm going to put the parchment over the top. So I'm using my little mini heat press from Cricut. You could use a regular iron. With this mini heat press, I've got it on the 3rd setting. If you're using an iron, I suggest the cotton setting with no steam. And everybody asks me, how long do you go over the top of it? You'll kind of know because what happens is the heat melts that cling wrap. So you'll kind of see it through it. So I'm going to trim right there on the edges. We're going to grab out some sandpaper and just clean up these edges really quick. And then we will do the edges with that little cross hatching that I was talking about that's on the napkin. But what an easy project. And friends, this is a way to not have to use Mod Podge because when you do it this way, there are no wrinkles. It drives me crazy when I'm using Mod Podge and I have a bunch of wrinkles. Y'all, yeah, it happens sometimes. So this is just a really great way. Look how cute that is. All right, so next up, we're going to try it on cardstock. So I've got these little cards here that come with the little envelopes. So I thought, all right, let's try it on this and see how it works. So I was like, well, let's just, get our cling wrap ready here. I already had that little piece cut off from before. And so then we're going to take the ply off of the napkin. Friends, this napkin is from Hobby Lobby. and getting this ply off, I'm telling you, this sucker is on there. Like some of them come off so easy, but holy moly, this one gave me a run for my money. So when they're on like this, just be super careful when you're pulling it off because you don't want to rip the front of the napkin. So I've done that before. It happens. But just be mindful of it. If I go a little bit slower, then that doesn't help, or doesn't hurt it, I should say, or help. You know what I mean. Anyways, why are words so difficult for me on days? I'll tell you what. So we'll get this all off there, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lay down the cardstock. I'm just going to do the front of this card because I thought, how cute would it be with this napkin? I love this napkin. And then you would open it up, write a little note, slip it in the envelope, and you have a cute little set there. So we're going to lay this down, and then we're going to take our piece of the cling wrap. We're going to lay that down, make sure we don't have any crinkles or anything. Sometimes the edges will kind of fold over. And then we will put the napkin over the top of that. And the same thing, we're going to lay the parchment down. So a lot of people ask me, why do you lay the parchment down? It's just so that it covers, if there's any cling wrap hanging out the edges, obviously you don't want your iron to touch that directly. So it protects that also, but it also protects the napkin, especially if you have one that has a white background. If there's anything that's on your iron or your little mini heat press, it could drag that across there if you have any, listen, my iron that I used to use was a crafting iron, so it had a lot of crazy stuff on it. So you don't have to use the parchment over the top, but I just suggest doing it. It just comes out much nicer that way. So we'll take a piece of that and we will lay it over there. Same thing, no time is needed. You don't have to go over it a certain amount of time, but you can kind of tell looking through the parchment when you can see that it is sticking. So if there's ever a time where an edge doesn't stick or you need to go over it more, just lay your parchment back down over the top of it, add a little bit more heat so that it adheres to your surface. And guys, this is so easy. And what a fun way to have like customized stationery, right? Or cards that you're sending out to someone. So I'm just going to sand those edges up. And friends, it's that simple. Y'all know I love simple, but look how cute that is. All right. So project number 3, metal. So I was skeptical that this was going to work. I'm finding that if the surface is really, doesn't have any type of grit to it or anything like that, it doesn't stick as well. So I was like, not sure how the metal's going to work. So I'm going to take the plies off of this napkin. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put down our cling wrap, and then we will lay down our napkin, and then we will lay down our parchment. So this little napkin, these are from Marshall's. So a couple plies on there, we will take those off. Always make sure that you get all of the plies off. I've had that problem before where I'm like, hey, this didn't work. And then I noticed, oh, there's another ply on there that you did not remove. Okay, I've done that a few times. Quite a few times, honestly. But that's okay. Okay, it's fine. But this ply, again, was really, really on there. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll just keep working that off. And I did tear it a little bit on the edge, but it's okay because the edge part isn't going to matter. I will end up sanding that off. So pull this off there. Like I said, we're going to grab some of the cling wrap. We will lay that down over our surface. If there's a little bit extra, don't worry about it. You could trim it more around the edge if you wanted to. Edges are easy just to sand off, so that's why I don't worry about anything sticking over the edge. So we'll lay the napkin down after that, and then we will lay our parchment down. And again, friends, I am using one of the little Cricut mini presses, little heat presses. I used to use my regular old iron. It just stopped working on me. Well, it does, but it doesn't hold heat as long as it used to. I don't know. It's really old. I bought it at the thrift store years ago, so I got my use out of it. But now I have the little mini heat press, so that works great too. So we are going to lay this down. We're going to start going over it with the heat. And as soon as I started doing this, I was like, ooh, friends, I don't know that, you can just feel it kind of or see it kind of getting different once it starts to melt. And I will tell you, I was really skeptical at this point, but I was like, oh, let me just keep trying. I know it's going to work. But again, I like to do these projects so that way if there's any type of crafting fail, I can say, hey, don't do that, or whatever the case may be. So here's where I pull it up and I was like, I can tell it didn't melt in. And look, crafting fail. So metal is not a surface we can do this with, but that's okay. We'll just use Mod Podge. All right, so next, cardboard. So I've got this little piece of cardboard. Y'all know I love to craft with cardboard. There's so many things you can make out of cardboard. So I just thought, let's just take off a little piece here just so that I can show you how easy it is. So, there's lots of different types of cardboard. Sometimes you really thicker. Sometimes you really see the corrugation in there. Sometimes it's a little bit thinner. So this one has a little bit of corrugation in it. So I'm like, you might see some of those lines, but that's okay because I love this napkin. So I'm like, let's lay it down and see how it works. I think it's going to be great. You can see I did not paint that piece of cardboard, so you will see that darker surface coming through, which I kind of wanted to show you that. But also I was interested to see with this pattern on this napkin if you could see the corrugation coming through. And I was kind of surprised with how it turned out, only because y'all know I like to paint the background so that the napkin kind of pops more and you don't have that background coming through. Oh, here's the part I was like, why am I trying to do this one? Anyways, oh gosh. So I'm going to trim everything off and then we will just sand those edges really good. Sanding the edges is by far my favorite way to do this. You could use an X-Acto or whatever, but I prefer the sanding. It just gives you such a clean edge. So we'll do that. And then again, you can see that background coming through, which I'm not loving, but I am loving that you can see some of those corrugation lines. So I think that is pretty cool. So definitely on cardboard is a win. Is a win, is a win. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Do I have any old shoe boxes? Because I'm like, wouldn't that be fun to do? Like cover the whole thing. And then you have like a decorative box that you could store stuff in. I mean, my mind was just like, man, so many things we can make with cardboard. I would just love it, love it. Everybody will be raiding their recycling bin after this, looking for cardboard. Anytime in the kitchen my husband does something, I'm like, oh, can you save that for crafting? It doesn't even make it to the recycling bin. Oh gosh. So anyways, we're going to finish up with the edges here. Actually, the cardboard was uneven. It had like this little tab thing. So I ended up trimming that off. But once I get this done, then I will show you how you can see that background coming through. This is such a great example of whatever the background is, it's the color that's going to come through. But also, I'm super excited to show you how you can see kind of the corrugation lines too. Look at that. So much fun. All right, next is a trucker hat. Friends, I was at Hobby Lobby and saw this trucker hat and I was like, oh, please let this work. Please let this work because how fun. So napkin is from Hobby Lobby. The hat is from Hobby Lobby. That front part is just kind of foam. So I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is going to work, but we are going to give this a shot. So I'm going to take off the plies like we've done on all the other ones. And then I'm going to actually cut out the flowers that I want to use on this. So I don't have like one of those little, I know there's, when you make hats, you can put it on this thing and, so you don't hurt your hand behind because it might get too hot. I don't know what those are called. I don't have one of those. So I was like, well, we're just going to wing it. We're just going to hold my hand back there once we press this on there. And if it gets too hot, which it did not. So I will just tell you, if you try this project, no worries, it doesn't get too hot. But I'm going to cut this out, which was a little bit time consuming, but we're just like right now praying to the crafty gods that that this project works because I just love this napkin with the color of that hat because these hats are super inexpensive at Hobby Lobby. So what a fun thing. So I've got this all cut out. This is one of them. So we're going to take again a piece of the cling wrap. And what I did was I really tried to make sure there wasn't a whole lot of excess of the cling wrap. I should have probably cut it a little bit more to size of this flower. But once it all melted in, it was okay. So I'm going to lay that down. Then we're going to lay down the napkin. This is kind of tricky because you're trying to hold it in place and, it worked out. It worked out just fine. But we're going to lay this down and make sure there's no, any bumps or anything like that. Lay this down, put our parchment over the top, and this is where we go in. You can use an iron too, friends. I'm just using this little mini heat press, and I could literally feel it working. I could feel it. I was like, oh, stop it. Like it was getting warm on the back, not hot, but I just really took my time, went all the way around, and I was like, please, when I peel this parchment paper off, let this work. I feel like it's working. And I got to tell you what, you guys, I really took my time with this because, again, it's an odd shape. It's not like we're ironing flat. And I was so pleased with how this turned out. Now I'm a bit obsessed and I want to do more. Yeah, I know. I know. That's just me. Once a craft goes well, then I'm like, let's do it all. But anyways, so we got that on there. And this is where I slowly peeled it back and I was like, oh, please, 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 please stay on there. And my friends, it stayed on. And I just am in love. Look at this hat. Hold on. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So here's all the project friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more.